surface. Juliet, 90 seconds.
Watcher to 6 actual. Target is in the main house. You have execute authority.
Bravo 6. Going dog.
Since debuting in 2003, the Infinity Ward-created Call of Duty series has immersed players in dozens of military conflicts spread across historically accurate settings and futuristic time periods. 2007's Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare proved especially pivotal, steering the brand away from its preceding World War II engagements while also redefining first-person action and online multiplayer. By this point, publisher Activision had already begun exploring spinoffs, inviting different development studios to experiment with the formula for new audiences. Several of these ancillary ventures never saw the light of day. In fact, the series has played host to more than a handful of side projects that rarely lasted beyond the conceptual phase. Such offshoots ranged from proposed sequels for existing entries to fresh ideas that would have taken Call of Duty to uncharted territory. One shelved endeavor even envisioned the property as a real-time card game. But for a variety of reasons, Activision halted this particular product's forward momentum along with that of nearly 12 other productions. This is the history of canceled Call of Duty games. This video was made possible by you. Over the course of the last couple of months, the support we've received from you in patronage and donations has been nothing but heartwarming. Your generosity is the foundation of what enables us to continue creating videos. But that's not all. Thanks to you, we are now slowly able to return to a steady output in content. Even more exciting, we have some exclusive projects in the pipeline that we can't wait to share with you. So if you want to be the first to get a glimpse of what we're working on and help us, a small independent team of 4 creatives, keep our channel alive, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You'll receive early access to our latest videos and enjoy a wealth of exclusive content and rewards, not available on YouTube. Thanks for all your support, and we hope you'll enjoy this video. Former Disney Interactive producer Craig Allen founded Spark Unlimited early in 2002 alongside Electronic Arts veterans Scott Langto and Adrian Jones, both of whom were key figures on Medal of Honor. Instead of investing in the R&D necessary to build proprietary technology, the group relied on licensed tools and middleware, thinking it best to ensure future talent could concentrate on the actual art. Spark angled its first steps towards finding a publishing partner for contract work. Allen broached the topic of a deal with Activision, which rather serendipitously had its heart set on expanding Call of Duty's reach by migrating to the console market. Late in 2002, the two companies inked a deal that tasked Spark with creating 3 AAA Call of Duty titles for GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. Finest Hour constituted the initial project, with Spark contractually obligated to develop a World War II shooter inside of 24 months on an $8.5 million budget. The project, and by proxy the partnership, instantly hit roadblocks due to litigation. According to reporting from Gama Sutra, other Spark developers who left EA hadn't formally resigned before Craig Allen began his dealings with Activision. About 20 staffers departed EA's LA offices after the ink on the agreement dried. The Medal of Honor publisher took notice. Spark was summarily sued, its employees most notably accused of copying proprietary software. An April 2003 settlement stipulated that both parties pay their own court costs. Activision forked over the $850,000 in legal fees for the Finest Hour developer. But the trouble didn't begin or end there. Spark and his publishing partner were already at odds over technology. Activision had argued in favor of joining forces to build a system called Advanced Graphics Engine for use during Finest Hour's development. The studio maintained its principle of letting artists and engineers focus on game creation, and thus convinced their bosses to permit the licensing of Criterion's Renderware engine. Allen admitted the graveness of this error in a 2005 postmortem, wherein he spoke candidly of the myriad technical problems that beset the creation of Call of Duty's first console title. Milestones were missed, the budget ballooned, and a revised contract was drawn to guarantee Activision could recoup $2.7 million in additional advances from future royalties. Spark's management offered little help as matters worsened, an issue Allen attributed to the differing methodologies between EA and Activision. To keep Finest Hour on course, the latter assigned over 24 of its own employees to lend a hand. Moreover, 6 of the console game's missions were outsourced to third parties. Contractors further oversaw the GameCube and Xbox versions, while Spark handled the PS2 build. Against all odds, Finest Hour hit stores in November 2004, garnering middling review scores and respectable sales. Spark still had an uphill battle ahead, its health contingent on securing additional work. The studio founder wrote his 2005 postmortem with this in mind, and shrewdly included a pitch for Call of Duty Combined Forces within it. Allen proposed Combined Forces as a Finest Hour sequel that could enter production in November 2005 and ship in 12 months on a $10.5 million budget. Allegedly, the pitch document lacked the thoughtfulness of the otherwise well-written postmortem and left those who read it with the impression that Combined Forces would constitute more of an expansion. Activision executives were unimpressed, a feeling compounded by their doubts about the competency of Spark's management. On top of rejecting Combined Forces, the publisher also freed the Finest Hour creator from its obligation to build 2 sequels. Spark subsequently requested a $500,000 cancellation fee. After receiving a refusal, the independent developer filed a lawsuit for breach of contract, to which Activision responded by countersuing and accusing Spark of misrepresenting itself as a company capable of managing AAA development. Finest Hour's follow-up quickly took up residence in the idea graveyard. Activision acquired developer Z-Axis in May 2002. The studio's founding members departed over time, and leadership consequently fell into a state of disarray that saw multiple general managers come and go in subsequent years. VP and GM Craig Alexander marked the last in line of shifting overseers, but made a point to recruit veteran talent from Electronic Arts, Eidos, and LucasArts. The beleaguered development house specifically needed assistance turning X-Men the official game into a shippable product before releasing alongside X-Men The Last Stand in May 2006. Jason Vandenberg, Scott Bandy, and Trevor Jalowitz all left EA in 2005 to do just that. Together, they guided the Z-Axis crew through the remainder of the X-Men game's production. The movie tie-in received dismal reviews at launch, and a chunk of its developers exited shortly thereafter. In an interview with Vox Games, now The Verge, Vandenberg said Z-Axis had kind of died while making the Marvel title. Upon picking up the pieces then, the 3 leads assembled a small group and rebranded Z-Axis to Underground Development. Their first endeavor under the new name stemmed from Bandy, a history aficionado whose keen interest in World War II inspired a pitch about the historical 1st Special Service Force, otherwise known as the Devil's Brigade. Comprising a coterie of American and Canadian soldiers, the Devil's Brigade operated from 1942 to 1944, initially training in Montana for a mission codenamed Project Plow that would have seen them parachute into German-occupied Norway to strategically dismantle hydroelectric plants. While this operation was abandoned, the Joint Commando Unit later led numerous specialized missions, becoming known and feared for overwhelming enemy soldiers with their brutal fighting prowess. Americans in the force were especially fond of so-called death raids, night missions that involved them blackening their faces and silencing their equipment with knit caps and tape, all so they could slip into German encampments, stealthily dispatch some enemies, and make prisoners of others before sneaking back out. The diary of one German lieutenant who'd been choked with piano wire gave the brigade its namesake by labeling the soldiers Black Devils. Interestingly enough, the guerrilla tactics of those self-same devils influenced the formation of fearsome forces like the U.S. Army's Green Berets. Scott Bandy hardly had to convince Underground Development that the Devil's Brigade could prove a worthwhile point of reference for the next project. The World War II setting, mixed with Activision's then ongoing considerations of a third-person action Call of Duty spinoff, made the idea perfect for the property's continued expansion. After receiving the green light to pursue the concept further, The rebuilt crew started working in June 2007 on COD AA, the abbreviated codename for Call of Duty Action Adventure. The goal centered on designing a playable 12 to 15-minute vertical slice that showcased the vision behind the story campaign. Vandenberg shared details when speaking with Vox Games, describing an experience informed by the brigade's historical defense of Roman bridges that were targeted by German forces. The vertical slice dropped the player and their unit near the Tiber River, tasking them with utilizing squad controls and vaulting mechanics to stealthily secure bridges and set explosive points. Silent kills and squad-based commands dominated the action, presenting a slower, more tactical pace than typical Call of Duty fare. As a proof of concept, the segment lacked cinematic set pieces, but underground development had at least mapped out the game's opening act. Designer James Scomer divulged the first mission would have recreated the historical Battle of Monte la Defensa, the special unit's earliest assignment. Historically, the brigade climbed and seized the 1,900-foot-high Monte la Defensa and the adjoining Monte la Remetinea, which held German defensive positions blocking the Allied forces' route toward Rome. Underground development wanted players to scale the same slopes in a rainy nighttime section that captured the intensity of a battle phase initially expected to last 3 days, but ended in hours. Feedback about the demo's progress came from either an assigned Activision producer or the publisher's VP of studios, but Vandenberg said the correspondences were little more than the collected opinion of a group with whom he and the team seldom interacted. Given the size of Activision, this hardly came as a surprise. Still, the vertical slice received positive praise, informing the belief that things were progressing smoothly. And then change peeked over the horizon in the form of a multi-billion-dollar merger. Modern Warfare landed in November 2007 and quickly became the year's best-selling title. 1 month later, Activision announced it would merge with French conglomerate Vivendi Games in a deal whose estimated value topped $18.9 billion. Lead game designer Kyle Brink claimed the news circulated just as underground development was preparing for the final green light. Yet its hard work got cut short 9 months in, when Activision ceased production on Devil's Brigade in February 2008. The public didn't learn of the spin-off until May 2010, courtesy of internet sleuths who stumbled upon clips on a website belonging to visual artist Terry Allen. One video showcased the effects work Allen had contributed to the Devil's Brigade. Another depicted the third-person action, complete with a glimpse at the UI and squad-based command buttons. Notably, this information made the rounds 2 years after another surprising Call of Duty endeavor vanished without a trace.
Ready, aim, fire. I got a cover card.
So he just plays it on his radio, man. I'm gonna move 3, okay? I can't move.
Circa mid-2007, employees within Upper Deck Entertainment heard rumblings about the trading card company's desire to produce a card game based on Activision's popular FPS franchise. Upper Deck designer Ben Sichowski took initiative, devising a real-time Call of Duty experience set in World War II. His boss liked the prototype enough to give the go-ahead for its continued development. Thus, Sichowski and a colleague refined the concept, tweaking the gameplay parameters to better emulate the brand's mainline World War II adventures, namely Call of Duty 1, 2, 3, and 5, the latter of which subsequently adopted the World at War subtitle. The short-lived Call of Duty real-time card game manifested from these efforts, its announcement hitting the web in April 2008, with a release date slated for that fall in North America. Upper Deck hoped the first major World War II card game would attract new audiences to the tabletop space, especially since it featured missions and tactics from the Activision series, along with a fast-paced style of play far different from traditional card games. Sichowski's design imagined 2 players battling in real time on a 5x5 grid, each one controlling troops by customizing their squads with specialists such as snipers, paratroopers, and demolition experts. Whomever reached a preset number of kills secured the win. The matches began with each player deploying 3 soldiers from their squad deck, then supporting them with action cards for firing shots, attacking enemy forces, and hiding behind cover. Had the real-time card game launched as intended, it would have done so with 8 squad decks modeled after armies from America, Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Russia. The contents of all 8 packages were meant to contain a 60-card deck, 8 soldier cards, 2 mission cards, 1 double-sided map, and a rule sheet. For reasons unknown, Upper Deck didn't release this particular card game. Modern Warfare's meteoric success changed everything for the IP. Activision wasted no time capitalizing on it either. In the midst of finalizing the Vivendi merger that would engender the dawn of Activision Blizzard, the publisher issued an open call to its internal teams, requesting pitches for experimental Call of Duty adventures. In a 2016 piece, Games Radar cited a source who claimed developer Vicarious Visions was encouraged to draft one such proposal. Acquired by Activision in 2005, Vicarious Visions originally cut its teeth on licensed titles and later dominated the sales charts with Skylanders. In 2008, however, the Albany, New York-based outfit had its hands full with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. The top-down action RPG provided the basis for the studio's unique Call of Duty pitch, Roman Wars. A small group of developers nicknamed Fireteam devised a concept that initially utilized the RPG's overhead camera before the switch to first- and third-person camera perspectives. The gameplay centralized ancient Roman warfare, so instead of modern conflicts, Roman Wars envisioned a Call of Duty campaign with a soldier in Julius Caesar's historic 10th Legion at the helm. A mood video comprising film references used 300 and Gladiator as examples of the targeted tone. It also cited games such as Assassin's Creed and Condemned Criminal Origins to illustrate mechanic-specific intentions. In a short time, Fireteam assembled a prototype consisting of a mission based on the Battle of Alesia in 52 BCE, where Caesar led his troops in a siege against Vercingetorix, the Gallic general whose surrender signified the final military engagement of note during the Gallic Wars. Caesar's personal accounts about the 8-year struggle as he relayed them in Commentaries on the Gallic War represented the key source material for the demo, which developers built in Unreal Engine for rapid prototyping. The level opened with a speech delivered by the Roman conqueror, then transitioned into a horse riding segment. Titus Pullo served as the mission's protagonist, fitting given his many mentions in Caesar's writings. Vicarious Visions made Titus's main objective of eliminating enemy archers achievable in 3 ways to showcase varied mechanics. One option let the character fire catapults at archers. A second encouraged the use of siege towers. And the last featured rideable elephants that function like tanks and trampled enemies. According to the Games Radar report, the prototype additionally boasted a second part dubbed the Spartacus mission, complete with a Colosseum-set gladiator fight. The Archer section prioritized a third-person perspective with Gears of War-style camera shakes and movements. Combat hinged on straightforward melee attacks and strafing. Meanwhile, the smaller Gladiator portion adopted a first-person view, its sword and shield-centric block and parry system bearing much in common with Condemned Criminal Origins. These disparate approaches were developed so producers could demonstrate 2 perspectives to higher-ups during the pitching process. And Vicarious Visions had even grander plans in mind. On top of shifting camera perspectives, Roman Wars would have followed multiple playable characters across increasingly important ranks in the 10th Legion. One moment would have players donning the leathers of a grunt, another would position them in the role of a centurion, and on until a playable Caesar entered the mix. While Activision liked the demo, those in charge questioned the Call of Duty branding. Games Radar's source admitted some developers were unwilling to compromise, convinced that an ancient warfare game designed in the Call of Duty engine would perform well commercially. Roman Wars never advanced beyond prototyping as a result. In a statement to IGN, an Activision spokesperson clarified that Roman Wars hadn't been seriously considered. Key developers recycled Roman Wars after departing Vicarious Visions by removing the Call of Duty prefix and pitching it to Ubisoft. The Assassin's Creed publisher rejected the proposal as well, once again consigning this Caesar campaign to ancient history. After shipping the critically acclaimed Dead Space, Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield left Visceral Games, then sought out fresh opportunities. Thus, the summer of 2009 saw the duo establish Sledgehammer Games. While laying the groundwork, Condrey and Schofield considered which publishing partner would make the most sense for Sledgehammer's debut. Activision seemed the logical choice. The publisher heard their pitch for a third-person Call of Duty shooter and soon thereafter agreed to partner with the fledgling firm on a spin-off. Activision officially acquired Sledgehammer Games in November 2009. Coming off of Dead Space's award-winning third-person experience, the developers were eager to inject the popular military shooter with similar energy. Condrey later told Digital Trends they'd envisioned a Call of Duty meets Uncharted scenario, which guided their 6 to 8 month stint on the offshoot internally named Fog of War. Joined by other ex-Visceral developers, Condrey and Schofield entered production on a vertical slice for a game set in the Vietnam War, one revolving around Cambodia and Laos. In a 2014 Game Informer interview, Schofield recalled researching the historically controversial conflict and learning of the somewhat hidden war fought in Cambodia and Laos, neutral territories the United States secretly bombed on President Richard Nixon's authorization. The narrative fueling Call of Duty's Vietnam outing focalized these settings. Sledgehammer ensured the gameplay design made good use of each country's topography, too. For example, dense jungles begat Dead Space-esque moments meant to convey the fear U.S. soldiers felt when navigating what they assumed were booby-trapped jungles and miles of underground tunnels. This supposed fresh take on war only ever materialized via a 10 to 15-minute prototype. Approximately half a year into development, Activision executives approached Sledgehammer leads with a new proposition following the high-profile firing of Infinity Ward founders Jason West and Vince Zampella in 2010. The duo's termination had caused an employee exodus from the famed Call of Duty studio, leaving Modern Warfare 3's production in turmoil. Activision told Sledgehammer it could either continue with Fog of War or co-develop the third Modern Warfare. Days of discourse resulted in the team agreeing that co-creating one of the biggest blockbusters of 2011 was an unmissable opportunity. Sledgehammer shelved the project indefinitely, though Schofield divulged in a 2011 sit-down with CVG that they'd probably cancel it. On one hand, the Vietnam title boasted a setting and time period the developer argued felt too niche. He additionally referenced the historical sensitivity surrounding the lengthy conflict, partially evident in Vietnam remembering it as America's War. The crew hadn't considered the prospective marketing-related dilemma at the time. Regardless, while Sledgehammer went on to play an integral role in Call of Duty's annual releases, the fog over the Vietnam endeavor never lifted. Sledgehammer wasn't the only Activision-owned entity folded into the Call of Duty machine amid the Infinity Ward fallout. After 3 years and 7 games on Guitar Hero, developer Neversoft Entertainment couldn't help but notice the oversaturation of music rhythm games. Internally, developers knew it needed to figure out next steps. And since such uncertainty coincided with the Infinity Ward debacle, studio leads wondered whether they could secure Call of Duty development opportunities. The wait to find out didn't last long. In 2011, Activision's interest in exploring more experimental ideas resulted in Neversoft co-founder Joel Jewett instructing staff to utilize the Modern Warfare 2 code for work on a futuristic Call of Duty codenamed NX-1. Brian Bright, who headed up NX-1's multiplayer effort, revealed in a conversation with Why Now Gaming that Neversoft encountered wide-ranging issues because no one on staff knew the ins and outs of Infinity Ward's technology. Such struggles seemingly had little effect on the project's far-reaching ambitions, though, considering the impressive Future War gameplay prototype that leaked in January 2024. Running 2 minutes in length, the build opened on a menu screen before showing footage of the protagonist, Walker, waking up on the moon after an attack. The character and his fellow soldiers fell back to their moonbase's armory, a move that quickly turned south when an airlock suffered a breach. A 10-minute extended version of the leak followed this video, which showcased Walker and his squad's efforts to thwart the invasion before a final push to regain control of the moonbase's satellite dishes was foiled by a hostile LGV. Bright answered questions about Future War on social media, telling fans the campaign would have taken place 30 to 50 years into the future. The December 2011 build that circulated online was mostly about Neversoft experimenting with low gravity and learning the Modern Warfare 2 engine. Said experimentation culminated in the studio crafting 2 or 3 campaign missions and producing quite a bit of multiplayer content, including a series-first escort mode. A leaked map list appeared to shed more light on these plans, yet Bright noted the index consisted primarily of test maps and originated from an embryonic multiplayer build. Absent from the list were the 4 standard and 2 escort maps the multiplayer crew had fleshed out. Since deleted footage of a locale named Sandstorm encouraged Bright to share more insight about the escort gameplay, in particular which would have involved teams pushing an unmanned ground vehicle through checkpoints. What's more, Bright explained the conspicuous connective tissue between Future War and 2013's Call of Duty Ghosts. The latter opened with a space mission boasting zero-gravity gameplay, not unlike the Neversoft demo. Future War and Ghosts also shared a similar UI and menu aesthetic, and both protagonists bore the name Walker. Plus, eagle-eyed players later realized Ghosts featured a weapon called the NX-1 Disruptor, a presumed tip of the hat to the Neversoft spin-off's NX-1 codename. Bright had already confirmed the connection in November 2023 when he disclosed that some of Future War's concepts were repurposed after its cancellation. For instance, Ghosts Clan Wars multiplayer mode blossomed from a Neversoft-created mode entitled The Emergent War. Believing the Emergent War held promise, Bright pitched the concept to Activision's then newly founded Beachhead studio and helped refine the gameplay for Ghosts. Though it didn't get to finish its version of the futuristic shooter, Future War's multiplayer creators assisted with the design of Ghost's Extinction mode. The storied Tony Hawk's Pro Skater outfit later assisted on 2014's Advanced Warfare before merging with Infinity Ward that same year. At some unknown juncture, Vicarious Visions received another shot at crafting an original Call of Duty title in the form of a tactics-based experience. Footage of a prototype discovered via animator Steve Nelson's online portfolio in April 2012 constitutes the only proof of the game's existence. Not much can be gleaned from the short gameplay footage either. The beginning of the 40-second clip shows an over-the-shoulder perspective of a U.S. soldier in World War II firing a rocket at enemy forces. In the last two-thirds of the video, the camera transitions to an isometric view while an unseen commander, presumably the player, instructs the 4 soldiers on screen to launch satchel charges. Game Informer likened the gameplay to Game Refuge's General Chaos on the Sega Genesis, a satirical strategy title published by EA in 1993. But what Vicarious's vision for Call of Duty tactics may have actually entailed remains a mystery.
We had a producer at Activision that was leading it, or like it was our producer that was working with us on it. And I'm not sure quite how we got the opportunity. I think it was something like, at the time, maybe Treyarch wasn't sure that they wanted to keep doing zombies because it was a lot of work. And so we got offered the opportunity to use it. And we're like, yeah, it's great, because I'd worked on zombies.
Speaking with YouTuber Glitching Queen in April 2024, Raven Software's former lead designer Michael Gemelt revealed details about the design document he once wrote for a standalone Call of Duty Zombies game. Gemelt never learned why Activision offered Raven the opportunity, but the scuttlebutt he'd heard suggested Zombies developer Treyarch began questioning the value of continuing the mode during Black Ops 2's creation. The timeline presented on Gemelt's LinkedIn page shows Raven incubated the standalone project between November 2011 and June 2012. Long before Zombies lead Jimmy Zielinski exited Treyarch. Gemelt spent months laying out plans for Project Z, the codename of a live service Zombies offering. The designer's product statement pitched Project Z as a combination of Zombies mode and the addictive replayability of the franchise's standard multiplayer suite. As an expansion and evolution of regular Zombies, the service game would have prioritized a microtransaction model similar to the one that eventually bolstered free-to-play Call of Duty Online, which launched exclusively in China in January 2015. Gemelt imagined Raven generating constant streams of new modes, maps, and customization content, buttressed by 1 to 4 player co-op and campy gameplay. Some of Gemelt's design ideas derived from prototypes he'd previously built with programmer Chris Reed, and though the realistic aesthetic associated with Call of Duty would have remained intact, very broad themes were under consideration. According to Gemelt, Zombies mode's George Romero-themed content and later additions like the Lovecraftian Shadows of Evil map embodied the direction he'd visualized. However, the theme driving Project Z bore a lot in common with the desolate world of Mad Max. The service game's first section would have dropped every player's customized character into a gladiator arena governed by round-based zombie-slaying gameplay. Players would escape the arena after a while, entering an open-world wasteland split into large sections where survivors required rescue. In the proposal, each section inhabited waves of undead that users needed to clear for progression purposes. This Mad Max meets zombies concept ended with the writings in Gemelt's documents. The impression the designer got was that Activision shelved Project Z because Treyarch revived the mode under Zelensky's replacement, Jason Blundell, for Black Ops 3, creating the potential for direct competition between the two experiences.
Mitchell, I gave you a second chance. Mitchell!
2014's Advanced Warfare concluded with a few loose ends, suggesting developer Sledgehammer Games would revisit its near-future tale in a sequel. Former creative director Brett Robbins mentioned in a discussion with MinMax host Ben Hansen that Sledgehammer briefly started down that road, even building early prototypes and a demo level. But the democratic way in which founders Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield had long run the studio complicated the decision to proceed. The duo strongly believed game development demanded passion, hence their commitment to a voting process that let all employees participate in selecting the next venture. Following Advanced Warfare, developers were given the choice between producing another installment or returning to Call of Duty's World War II roots. Robbins said the second option felt like a better opportunity, given the storytelling possibilities, a sentiment reflected in the studio-wide vote, with some convincing from the founders. As such, Sledgehammer kickstarted the 3-year development cycle on Call of Duty World War II, leaving Advanced Warfare's loose ends dangling in the wind. Over the course of 20-plus years, Activision has shepherded the release of more than 24 Call of Duty games. Several potential entries fell by the wayside along the way because of failed pitches, missed opportunities, and business decisions that dictated alternative paths. Since the series shows no sign of slowing down, the sidelined Advanced Warfare sequel is unlikely to serve as the last of Call of Duty's unceremoniously abandoned missions. Thank you for watching our video. We'd like to take this time to thank, by name, the generous Patreons who have pledged to our Hall of Fame reward tier. Disco Cobra 2013, Ice Cold Water $1, Karu, Sauerkraut, Shuan Chinwin, and those currently subscribed to our producer reward tier: Adam Miller, Brock Piviroto, Darirab Sigurdsson, DCX-NG, DJ Redden, Eric Bedio, Fallen Asterisk, It's Peanut Butter, Jake, Jan Christofferson, Matthew McLaughlin, Rebobbed, Roberto Nieves, Sir Alex, C-Rob Kaysen, Taylor Moten, Your B. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our channel and backing us on Patreon.